What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you about this upcoming week as far as some expectations, what might cause some volatility in Lucid, what the data points are currently saying, and ultimately where I see things going. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So based on Friday, it did go down 1.16%. It did have a new 52-week and all-time low of $5.07. A lot of volume, so 28.5 million shares being traded. 25 is the average, so a fair amount for a Friday. These are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market, over $100,000. So the frequency definitely there, and you do also see a lot of bigger transactions, so 8.62 million and 1.18 million. But outside of that though, dark pool is also equally very popular. Dark pool is linked to shorting, so I'll give you an overview of what they did in a second. As far as data points to really watch for, it's kind of quiet at the beginning part of the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing really to note. On Thursday and Friday, there is GDP on Thursday, and then on Friday, PCE. So I do feel that Thursday and Friday are going to be big, volatile days that could hopefully get Lucid and the broader market out of this downward spiral, unfortunately. But I do feel for the beginning part of the week, it is going to piggyback off of the negative momentum from last week and cause it to go down. I do feel on Monday there might be a relief rally that is going to be short-lived, so a lot of value investors might get in because a lot of growth stocks have gone hit quite heavily, in fact. But again, that's just some of my predictions for this upcoming week. As far as what might cause some volatility, when it comes down to Lucid, there hasn't been any recent press releases, no SEC filings, nothing like that. But that also at the same time has been one thing that I did kind of bring up on my last video as more so as a negative, only because the last official news that came out from Lucid was August the 28th. And since then, there's been a ton of things for them to talk on. But hopefully this upcoming week, they do put out some PR associated to the unveiling. So last video also, I did cover this in just talking about the opening ceremony, essentially is what they called it. And it was ultimately just for them handing over the Lucid Motors operations permit for the AMP-2. So again, I think that's a fairly good thing for Lucid bigger picture. But since then, though, this did come out. So it looks like the actual true opening ceremony that Lucid did refer in their Q2 earnings is going to be held on September the 27th on Wednesday between 4 and 8. So in reality, this is huge. And like I've signaled in the past, this is key for them to hit their 2023 targets, because I feel like it's estimated, if I remember correctly, that they are going to produce just this year alone 5,000 vehicles. So like I said, they definitely do need this to really work in their favor. And this has been something that a lot of Lucid investors have been sitting very, very patiently for, is for the whole Saudi factory to be kicked off ever since the tail end of 2021. So ultimately Lucid's unveiling and coming out, they've been talking about this whole Saudi factory. And then in January 2022, they started to really talk on that and how technically it's going to be coming out in full force 2025, 2026, but they're going to be producing roughly, I think it was around 150,000 vehicles initially before they bumped it up to 155. So when it comes down to this, I think this definitely is going to result in a lot of good things for Lucid, bigger picture. So let me know your thoughts, and hopefully Lucid does do some official PR about this. But let's move on to options. So based on options, I'll give you an overview of what happened on Friday. So Friday, there was $1.42 million in calls being purchased versus 2.37 million in puts. So based on this information, despite it having a new 52-week and all-time low, people were assuming that, and are assuming that, it is going to continue to trend down, as backwards and as sad as that is. And even if you zoom out, looking at, for instance, the last 3 days, there's been $65 million in puts being purchased versus 4.19 million in calls. So people have been assuming that it's going to go down. And if you do kind of look at it though, generally a lot of the puts have been purchased after the Fed meeting. So if you're one of those individuals that does feel that all of this is a very big overreaction as a result of Powell, then technically this might go up very fast because it looks like it's being artificially pushed down by a lot of bigger institutions. But that's just my own opinion, of course, not a financial advisor. If you are optimistic looking at this is all the call options. This also shows the strike prices, expiry dates. Based on this information for this upcoming Friday, so September the 29th, it is anticipated to be between the $5 to $6 range. So kind of where it's at a little bit. If you are negative on Lucid, it is anticipated to be, looks like sub $5. So you kind of have both extremes, and it does match the technicals as far as that. So I'll touch on the technicals right now, then I'll move on to shorts and stuff like that. But with it currently at $5.11, this S2, or it's trading between this S3 and this S2, so $4.85 is a very strong support, and $5.49 is a very strong resistance. So those are some things that you need to watch for. But if it does get in this $4 range, this is where a whole different ball game comes into play. And I've done a dedicated video on this, more so I think it was in June, because it's hovered around the $5 range a couple times in the past. So obviously in June, in January of 2023, it kind of looked like it was going to break and go into the $5 range, especially based on this downtrend. So I've done videos on this in the past, but essentially there is something called the $5 threshold. And of course, when it comes down to this, if a company is trading below $5 for 10 consecutive days, it is considered to be a penny stock, as weird as that is. But when a company is considered to be a penny stock, then essentially there are certain restrictions that are placed on institutions, such as trust accounts cannot hold penny stocks. Institutions cannot also hold penny stocks on margin. And there's some other restrictions as well, but those ones are the big ones. So when it comes down to institutions, they still are very much heavily invested in Lucid. As you can see, these are all the institutions that do physically hold Lucid. So I'm sure some of them have them on margin. So once again, going back over here, if it does dip below that $5 mark for 10 consecutive days, this is where things might get very, very interesting. So once again, there's just that to keep in mind. But as far as looking at here, so momentum shows number of retail investors have been getting out. Stochastic is currently at 2, which is considered very oversold, but there isn't any defined trend as of right now. So that's kind of the technicals, at least going into next week. As far as looking at this on a, I guess, larger scale, there's not really much to talk on. It's lower percentile of the Bollinger Band and well below a lot of the pivotal moving averages. And it is unfortunately staying within the band right here. So essentially this is all kind of just normal trading, a normal sell-off, because if you do get extremes that kind of break outside the band, it usually does cause a quick reversal in the opposite direction, as you can kind of see right here on all of these cases. But based on what has been happening, it's all been very calculated. So kind of interesting stuff. But once again, I'll give you an overview of what shorts are doing, especially going into next week. Short score is currently 78, utilization is 93.7, and as far as this, clearly it's a glitch right now. It doesn't show any change from Friday, but 26.59% of the free float is being shorted. That is extremely high. 220.08 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 12.34%. So that has been going up over the last week and a half. So once again, that might be something positive. It does also indicate right here, interactive broker short availability, that there is about 100,000 shares to be shorted. So they are kind of running out of ammunition. So that's something to kind of consider as well. So generally, I do feel that unfortunately, based on the technicals, it might actually touch this 485 by potentially Wednesday. But again, I do feel Thursday and Friday, so GDP and then PCE is going to save the broader market and get it a little bit higher, back into kind of the higher range, so 5+. But once again, I could be wrong. I'm not a financial advisor. Let me know your thoughts on all of this. Give yourself a shout out. Did you buy, for instance, on Friday or over this downtrend? Have you been buying, selling, holding? What is your take on Lucid? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing I just wanted to share with you, take advantage of this promo. It is only up until September the 30th. Sign up for an account with Moomoo, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock could be valued up to $2,000. So that is one of the best deals out in the market. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all that said, I appreciate you all watching, and let's all make eventually a ton of money on Lucid.